Welcome to my full moon reading. So this full moon is only 3 days after the summer solstice, but the energy's already changed. We had a grand cross at the summer solstice, and now we have still Venus in opposition to Pluto and Saturn and Uranus in a square, but the other squares are gone in a way. But what we have biquintiles and quintiles in this full moon in Capricorn. And quintiles in astrology are those elements that are disruptive, those elements that are faded, those elements that come from the feminine, from the chaotic feminine. The five-pointed star that is connected to the witches, that is connected to Venus, that is connected to the unseen that somehow comes into the world, the mysteries, the feminine mysteries. There is a biquintile between Moon and Mars, and there is a quintile between Venus and Uranus, and this talks about imbalance, disruption in personal relationships, faded events that bring movement. And we talked about in the summer solstice and in the solar eclipse in Gemini that we live in a very imbalanced time, in a time of transition. 2021 is a year of transition, and I would say this summer is really moving us into this new and inviting us to let go of the old. And in this full moon there are forces coming in that are not the usual, that are not from our order, from our material structure. And because in astrology we have 12 signs. 12 has to do with structure and order, and with a circle, and with harmony. And the five-pointed star in itself is the harmony of chaos, but the focus is on chaos, and fate in a way is chaotic. It is when something is unexpectedly hits our usual structure. So I would say this full moon in a way is putting a light on events we cannot avoid anymore, on realizations we cannot avoid anymore, or because the full moon is in Capricorn, on structural changes we have to do that are faded. We cannot look away anymore. And if we do, then we might really get into trouble. So we better be open to the new and be open to the changes that we are invited to have. And that's why this time I pulled the cards for our creative projects and for relationships, because the quintiles have to do with creativity, because out of chaos comes creativity. That is the feminine, that out of chaos all matter was born. So that is a very mystical principle, that even though we are afraid of chaos, chaos is actually the energy that brings the new. When there are storms at the changes of seasons, then that means that these chaotic storms bring the change that is needed, that the leaves are falling off the trees that is needed for winter, and even in spring that the rest of the leaves is falling off so that the new blossoms can come. So in chaos there is a certain form of order, but it is needed especially for the new to arise. And yeah, the five is also connected to change. In numerology and in tarot it is connected to the Hierophant, and the Hierophant is the wise teacher, the teacher that connects knowledge with divine wisdom, because knowledge in itself is useless in a way, and divine wisdom without knowledge is also useless, because you cannot you don't have the instruments to know what to do with it. You are just confused. It's too Neptunic. It needs the vessel of knowledge to know what to do with it. And through this connection of wisdom and knowledge we learn, and we we can change, and we can change in the way our soul wants us to be. And for our creative projects, I've pulled the cards Purifying Garden, Innocence, Challenge, and Truth. And I would say in our creative projects, we are called to let go of old structures, to turn to our innocence, and to dare to try new things like children, to be open to play with our possibilities, and maybe to try new stuff where we thought, oh, this is not my area. I don't know, I'm a opera singer, I don't want to do rock music, or vice versa. But this kind of playing with our creativity, playing in the way we are called to create, because I mean, creativity is often connected to artists, but everyone who has a calling, to me, is creative in what they do. Even if you are a cleaning woman, if you are very creative in your work, then it is a form of calling. And with challenge, it is challenging to do so. It is challenging to leave the path that we are used to. It is challenging to be truthful to ourselves. And I would say this is not about others so much. It is very much about ourselves, and that we dare to try different ways to express ourselves and dare to be adventurous. It is an invitation to be adventurous, and the full moon is in Capricorn. It is a calling with this biseptile to Mars to be creative in the structures we are used to, in our Capricorn way of this is the way it needs to be, and to say, but I dare to be different, and I dare to allow chaos to create something new. In our deepest sacred contracts, in our deepest relationships, whether it is romantic or whether it is in our friendships, we are called to let go of old structures. I mean, Aries, that is connected to Turandot, is the goddess of discord, and she can be very disruptive, but sometimes this chaos that she brings, or that chaos that has to do with her disruptive energy, is needed for change. This sword of Turandot is needed to cut through the darkness, to cut through the bullshit. And I come from shamanism, and in shamanism, the shamans cut the dark energies, cut the cords. They always have a knife with them to cut dark cords. And once a student asked, but I love my mother, I don't want to cut the cord with her. And then the shaman said, but you cannot cut love. What you cut is everything that is dark in this connection, everything that is not needed in this connection, but you never can cut love. And I would say this is what we should never forget. We are invited to be more courageous, and I would say we better are, because fate pushes us into the new and pushes us to be adventurous and to be most of all courageous. And being courageous with walking the talk. And with twin flames, first I have to be truthful to myself, because twin flames, we easily and very fast connect to someone else, to the sacred union with someone else. But this sacred union begins with ourselves. We cannot be in the sacred union with someone else unless we are in the sacred union with ourselves. And this sacred union says you have to be truthful, you have to be courageous, you have to cut the cords that are evil, the cords that are unnecessary, the cords that are ready to leave your life. Be courageous in that and be truthful. Walk your talk. And then, with fulfillment, every step that is truthful to your heart, that is truthful to your calling, that is truthful to your soul, will bring you closer to love and to union. Sometimes it might not look that way, but you have to believe in the guidance of your soul. And these quintiles are actually have to do with guidance from other dimension. And I would now talk a little bit about the astrology. And what I said before is Mars in Leo is in a big quintile with the moon in Capricorn. And Mars and Venus are in a wide conjunction. Venus is in Cancer and Mars is in Leo. Venus in Cancer is strong. She feels at home in Cancer. Cancer is nourishing for Venus, and Leo is nourishing for Mars. So I would say there is also, in this disruption between Mars and the Moon, and between Venus, the quintile between Venus and Uranus, all this disruptive, the sudden events that are happening, there is a form of harmony. We signed up for that. I would say this is really a full moon that says it might be very disruptive. Things might happen out of the blue where there is a lot of imbalance or something happening very sudden, but you signed up for that. There is something that your soul said yes to, and now Mercury is finally going direct again, and Mercury is also in a trine to Saturn, and Saturn has to do with structure. So with time, Saturn, with time, we might realize what is going on, or we might find a way to understand or to communicate. But there is a form of destiny that is happening during this full moon, and a destiny that will bring new developments, especially in our emotional field, in our very, very personal field, whether it is our really deep, intimate personal calling, or whether it is our deep, intimate relationship with others, or even with ourselves. But it has to do with things that are really, really personal, and there are changes coming, and there is a light on that. And with a full moon, it usually means that this change had been going on for a while. It is not something that is very sudden out of the blue. Maybe for us it seems out of the blue, but I would say with a full moon it means that it went on for a while, but we didn't see it, and we might not even realize these fated events until later on, when we look back and realize, okay, this was the time where change was happening. This full moon is an invitation to change, and the moon is in Capricorn, so I would say it is an invitation to change certain structures in our lives. With the moon, certain emotional structures. With Venus and Uranus, certain structures in our relationships. And Venus is still in an opposition to Pluto. There are power struggles in relationship. There is something where we have to cut the cords, where we have to say no to these power struggles. Are not love. And even though it is hard, because to cut through those power issues is hard, we have to be courageous. Being courageous and truthful enough to accept the changes that are already happened, or the changes that are already going on, and to be courageous to accept them and to be open for the new. My advice would be that you remember that this change or this chaos is always the beginning of the new, that when the season change, then there is always an imbalance, and that this imbalance is needed for the new. So we shouldn't be afraid of that imbalance too much, that imbalance that was also during the solar eclipse, and most of all during the summer solstice. We are in a time of transition, and we should be courageous enough to be open with all our senses to feel where the calling is, where we should go, where is our inner compass leading us to. And we can only feel that when we are still, and we can only be still when we trust in this guidance, when we are not in panic because of this imbalance. So it is also an invitation to breathe, as Thich Nhat Hanh says, just breathe in, breathe out, and be there. And in this stillness you reconnect with yourself, and in this stillness you are whole, and in this stillness and in this connection with yourself you will never be lonely. You are connected with everything that is, even with those aspects of life that are connected to these biquintile energies. We have a belief system that we live in a very grounded manner, but in a way we are just, our earthly life is a time of transition from the invisible to the visible, back to the invisible, and back again into the visible. So it is a dance of these forces, but in the stillness we are connected to all aspects of force. So may the force be with you. I hope you have a wonderful time. Till next time, namaste.